Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Baldur's Gate Completionist playthrough with SCS. And here we are about to pursue Sarevok through the maze under the Thieves Guild here. But I think I'm going to just quickly check what Black Lily has here. I think I might just buy one of these, maybe a Potion of Power. And I guess we're out of space in my inventory, but not in my potion case directly. Alright, I think we're good. We have tons of everything. So as you can see now, these stairs are interactable. We can proceed downstairs. And here's Valletta Stiletto. And I don't really like her attitude much, so I'm not going to be too nice to her. But apparently, yeah, Sarevok was through here a few moments ago, and he just gutted her, just because she was kind of on the way, just for the fun of it. And yeah, she says that this maze, because this is a proper labyrinth, as you will see, and it actually connects to the Undercity. And if you remember from like chapter 5, from some of our previous episodes, there was a seer by the name of Gaxir, and he said something like that. He alluded to this. And he said that Baldur's Gate is like way more than it appears on the surface, and he said something about cities beneath cities, and indeed that is the case. This Undercity here is basically the ruins of some kind of an ancient city, ancient civilization that is beneath Baldur's Gate now. Anyway, apparently not a living person has managed to like get through this maze, which is apparently kept guarded by, or is guarded by some undead and kept clean by the jellies. So those are the types of enemies that we're going to meet here. I'm just going to quickly traverse through. This is going to be a proper labyrinth, like I said, but if you know where to go, it's going to be pretty quick. By the way, I also think I forgot to mention, in the previous episode, once we entered the Ducal Palace, I think I forgot to say that normally in classic Baldur's Gate there would be a little cinematic. But, as was the case in a couple of other instances, the enhanced edition, you know, like enhanced that kind of cinematic out of the game.
It is done.
Alright, so as you can see, different types of jellies, different types of oozes. Yes, Lick is kind of lagging behind because we didn't use an oil of speed on him. But here we need some melee damage for these Doom Guards. And you know, as you can see now, some of these different creatures that used to be pretty scary back in the day are not a threat to us anymore. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go invisible with Koran. And I'm going to switch his armor to his leather one, so that he can detect and disarm some of the traps here. There's actually kind of like sometimes this green like symbol here, like I don't know, some splash of acid or whatever that's supposed to be, that can actually indicate in this maze where some of the traps are. And I'm going to disarm them first, because these like skeleton warrior archers are actually, you know, of the pretty deadly variety. They have some good arrows with them, and they have some decent stats. So if you approach them directly, of course they will start shooting you from a distance, and there's like 4 traps in the way there. So, you know, you're not going to have a pleasant time. If these traps, you know, remain there and you trigger them, and some of them are lightning bolt traps, so of course in these like narrow passages lightning bolts can be extremely deadly. And yeah, I think they have ice arrows. Yeah, I'm not going to loot anything off of them. But you know, it's nothing maybe deadly at this point in the game, but you can take some unnecessary damage. So just progressing along here. Now someone aggroed a guy. because I did that a little bit too quickly. There are, of course, situations where you can get... Let's just get rid of him. You know, the pathfinding, of course, can get in the way here. Especially if you have your whole party not at the same speed. Some of our guys, of course, are hasted, and Yeslik and Imoen aren't. So let's just make sure they are going to take the proper way. And here there's going to be, I think, some more traps.
Yes, certainly.
You can actually give them like waypoints if you shift click, kind of like in an RTS game. Which is something that I also didn't know for a long while, and I still don't really make enough use of it.
Yes, certainly.
Anyway, let's quick load, quick save and quick load to get rid of this combat music.
It is done.
Because there's not going to be any more combat in this labyrinth. So we explored a little bit of it, but, you know, of course it looks way cooler if you can explore the entirety of it. And here's Winsky Perorate, apparently not doing too well. And yeah, so he was the helper of Sarevok that teleported him out, but apparently he says that he is expendable now. But expected no less. So we can ask him some questions. And apparently he was Sarevok's mentor and tutored him in the blackest of rituals. Yeah, if he had succeeded, there is no doubt I would be among the dead, but my name would live on in his wake. There are things beyond death if you die in the right fashion, and how could there not be a place in history for the architect that shaped the actions of the ascending Lord of Murder? You would not understand, you were born to affect the realms. The rest of us must carve our own place by whatever means necessary. So yeah, we ruined his plans, he will say. You know, you stripped him of any pretense. There's no longer any point in him maintaining his respectable veneer. Only the most fanatical or fearful of his allies stand by him now. So yeah, he has now the advantage of choosing the battleground. And there is an altar in the Undercity, an altar to Bhaal, as you will see in a second. So that's his last refuge. Yeah, just a reiteration what the plan was. The slaughter was all he wanted, with enough lives lost in the initial battles to ignite the fire in his own divine blood. He thought death on the appropriate scale would cause him to ascend. Perhaps he would have, but who can really say? If you have the arrogance of a god and can kill like a god, who's to say you are not a god? So yeah, basically, I'm going to go with the nice way. You know, that the anonymity, I guess, is going to be the worst punishment for him, and someone may find him here, because I think he is not deathly, like, wounded. But anyway, if you kill him, he actually is classified as an innocent, and you will get a reputation penalty for that, which is a bit of a shame. Of course, at this super end game scenario, your reputation doesn't matter anymore, but still, you know, I think I'm going to leave him alive, although he probably should be killed. So wow, a little cinematic that wasn't enhanced out of this. And here is a nice touch from the NPC project, showcasing, you know, the true Jaheira. Underneath her attitudes and whatnot, she's a pretty cool character. And, you know, one of our closest ties to Gorion, of course, she's pretty much like family. Well, it appears that we have finally reached the final hurdle on our path. We have achieved much already, and you have led us with competence unexpected at your young age, Seneshira. We all trust in you, and know that you will not falter now. Yeah, dude. That's pretty nice. Let's just heal up a little bit. There's going to be some encounters still left here before the final battle, and I think I'm going to reserve a separate episode for the final battle. But there's still a little bit to do. There's still a little bit to do. And so yeah, this is the Undercity kind of ruins that I've mentioned. And this is also why we brought... Actually, we can drop all of these now. Even Sarevok's diary. Can you imagine, by the way, Sarevok sitting down and like opening the diary with a pen and being like, "Dear diary, you know, today I slaughtered hundreds. It was nice." Alright, anyway. I was about to take out that clairvoyance scroll so that Imon can use it.
What you want?
And we can see the entirety of this map. So boom. This is pretty cool. Like, you know, ruins of some ancient city. You know, I didn't just want to like lose time, waste time on exploring all this. Plus, because of all of these like walls and stuff, it's not even that easy to explore. Here, there's, as you can see, there's a plate mail here. That's added by the enhanced edition, and we're going to check that out in a second. And here, of course, is that altar, that temple of Bhaal. And this is our final destination. But on our way, there's going to be some obstacles. First of all, there can be like some undead spawning. Oh, whoa. I didn't want to progress that far. I wanted to buff up a little bit. No. That is pretty unfortunate if they initiate a conversation, and they will right now. Okay. Whew. I thought they stood a little further down there. Anyway, the only thing I want to do here, really, I think is I am going to buff up Senashiro with some fire resistance, because this is the last chance, basically, that we can to use some of our Armageddon tactics. So let's make it pretty grand. Let's make it glorious. And I think since we have all of these potions of magic shielding, I think I'm going to use one right here. So that Senashira can just like go in and take their attention. And the rest of our guys can just bomb the hell out of that group. Because it is going to end up in an encounter, although they weren't hostile right away. And the reason I want Senashira to be in melee there is because one of those guys has 2 arrows of detonation, and I don't want him to fire these arrows of detonation, of course, into our group. I want his attention to be occupied by Senashira in his melee range, and then of course all of our other guys I want to be relatively safe. Okay, so let's just distribute some of our nice explosives to our guys. She is going to use the Necklace of Missiles, and Koran, if you have a chance, let's use 1 arrow of detonation maybe, and Imoen can use a fireball. Anything else that I want to do? Actually, Senashira's armor class could be a little buffed up, but nothing too serious. Let's just use a quick shield. Since she's going to be pretty close to them, let's keep her safe. Our haste actually ran out, which is not too good, but whatever. Alright, so here's Raven. A rather strange place to meet living members of the Sunlit Realms. I am curious as to why you are here. Could I rightly assume that you have something in common with the man Sarevok Anchev? And of course we have nothing to do with him. And anything we say here is going to end up in a fight. So let's try not to reveal who we are. So yeah, my friends and I are mercenaries in the employ of the Iron Throne. We've been sent to hunt down Sarevok. Seems as if he went crazy and started murdering all who got in his way, including Realtar, and the Throne don't take too well to having their high-ups killed. You know, the longer I talk to you, the more familiar you become. You're Senashira, aren't you? Well, well, well. It seems as if we've gotten lucky. Killing you will give us a nice hefty bonus. Sorry about this, but you're not wanted dead or alive. Only dead. So yeah, here's a party of 6 guys. And so they have 2 archers, Raven here being the guy with the 2 arrows of detonation, and here's Karsten, and there's actually 2 names that are going to be repeated, or used in Baldur's Gate 2, and we're going to get to it soon. They're basically all around level like 11 to 13. The fighters, I think the archers are like level 11. This guy, Haseo, is I think a level 12 Kensai. Wude is a cleric, which is also a pretty high level, I think 11 or 12. Then Shaldrissa here is a mage of level 13, I think. And they have also a pretty strong ogre with them. So anyway, as you can see from their names, we have Gorf, which in Baldur's Gate 2, there's a prominent kind of a quest-related half-ogre called Gorf the Squisher, which is someone involved in Mazzy's quest, one of our recruitable companions. And Karsten, actually, in Watcher's Keep level 4, there's a mage called, well, who calls himself Karsten the Magnificent, Lord of the Level, as you will see when we get there. So, yeah, not a completely different Karsten. Anyway, so they all become hostile, of course. Let's try to approach Ravin, and let's try to just bomb the hell out of him.
Yes. I care not.
This is Fireball. And Koran, you can approach first. Yeah, they have various types of pre-buffs, they have potions, they have everything, of course, at this stage. But we don't care, we're going to make sure that they all just explode. Or, well, most of them explode. Boom! And you could see from the animation there that Shaldrissa actually is high enough level to have access to protection from magical weapons. But Haseo's spell, I think he wanted to activate Kai. And Wude wanted to cast something. Anyway, what's our health situation here? Let's have Koran fire one arrow. And let's try to get rid of the cleric, perhaps.
Yes, wherever fate takes me.
Now we're, like, from the music, from everything, now you know, like, this is it. You know, this is the end. This is Baldur's Gate. This is where it all going to end. Let's get rid of Ravin so he doesn't, like, fire his exploding arrows at us. Okay, Shaldrissa is still active, but we have our handy potion of magic shielding, so we are going to save against anything she throws at us, unless she wants to perhaps dispel us with remove magic. Yeah. That's exactly what she did, and now we don't have our saving throws being automatically successful anymore. So we are going to basically have everyone focus on Shaldrissa. And maybe we can finish off Gorf with Jaheira or someone. Okay, Senashira is not in a great position because her armor class buffs were dispelled. So let's, you know what, let's just quickly finish off Karsten. And this is an enchantment spell, so this might be chaos. So let's just quickly buff up Senashira with a greenstone amulet and probably move everyone back. Okay, that's just Greater Malison. No worries. Let's continue on Karsten then. And now full force on Shaldrissa. Now she's casting Chaos probably. Alright, let's go back. Alright. Yeslik managed to save against that. You know, if you're not hasted you can see, oh my god, this might be Sunfire or something. Yeah, it was. And of course, Senashira's... Jesus Christ, she has 4 HP. Because of course, together with everything else, her fire protections were dispelled. That could have been super tragic there, obviously. This is just so badly played by me. I'm just, like... This is what happens when you get a little too lazy. Like, when the fight is basically won, but of course you have the mini-boss SCS mage left. Anyway, if everything goes well, we're interrupting her spells now and there comes a ton of zombies. But anyway, the thing is that, as you can see, if you get a little too lazy, And if you stop trying, pretty much,
Yes.
you know, you can get to this kind of situation.
Yes?
Where a couple of things might go wrong and you almost die, and you almost get a game over with your main character.
Yes?
My
It's really unfortunate that Yeslik is stuck there. I wanted to use... Let's just buff him up with some fire, and let's use our explosives one more time. Without misclicking, preferably.
I am indeed. Your certainly.
Boom!
Yes? Indeed.
Alright, that was a mess. That was a complete mess.
I am here.
That should have been way smoother, but we got through it.
Yes? It is done.
Okay, so they have some stuff, like you can see that Karsten here had some pretty good arrows. And we get like 2 more potions of invulnerability, which is nice. Here are the arrows of detonation. Some arrows +2. Some bigger healing potions. This was Gorf. He had detect invisibility, which we have plenty of. Oh yeah, Carson we are already looted, and Shaldrissa, I think she has a couple of scrolls, but I want to be a little bit further from the entrance to this temple, because we are going to meet still one more character.
Your concern?
And we need to like seriously heal up. And I think, you know what, just for out of combat quicker healing, I am going to give Yeslik and Senashira a bit of a sip from the better potions.
What are you need?
Yes?
Just heal up a bit. You know what, you can even have that again. Let's just quickly heal up without wasting too much time, because I wanted to talk about a couple of things before we get ourselves prepared for the final battle. Here I am going to quick save to show you 2 different outcomes of this conversation here.
I must talk to you in private. These are troubled
So here is
times.
Tomoko again, the last time we're going to see her. Hello again, Senashira. I fear this time I have not come to speak, and must take up arms against you. You have done what you must, I suppose. Sarevok knows of my treachery, you know. He has forsaken me, left me to die in your path. I must fight to regain his trust, his attention. And so I stand before you, knowing that if I defeat you, he will continue his plans elsewhere, and I shall lose him. And if you defeat me, you shall go on to kill him. He will not yield to either of us. I have no choice. So, there are 2 ways to go about it. Since we've been nice to her, and we've made that promise to her and everything, we will be able to convince her that there is always a choice. Do not throw your life away. Or, I cannot harm you, you are not my enemy. Those are going to convince her. You must. I stand before you. I block your path. I am an obstacle that holds you back. You will free. You will fight me. Yeah, you are not so alike after all. He would not have hesitated for an instant. Perhaps it is more than his blood that makes him the way he is. I have been a fool. Go. Your path is clear, and I wish you well. One last word in passing. Beware of the blindness of those who would follow, and the damnable lure of those who would lead. A fool I was, and others are still. Ready yourself for the fire to come. So she leaves with her life, and that's kind of like the good option. But I am going to reload, and I am going to fight her, because, you know what? If we go back and try to remember the fight that Gorion had at the very beginning of our playthrough against Sarevok and his lackeys. Do you remember who Sarevok was accompanied by? By 2 ogres, 2 archers, and a female cleric, who is none other than Tomoko, of course. So, we remember her. We know that it was her that aided Sarevok in killing Gorion, our father, our only person that, like, threw his previous life away, his whole adventuring ways and stuff, to bring us up to you know, take care of us in Candlekeep, knowing full well that we were a child of Bhaal, and knowing that that would bring probably someday a grave danger to him, and he, you know, lost his life so that we could live. So we will not forget about his sacrifice and just let her go. We know what you did, Tomoko, and there shall be no forgiveness. For your part in killing Gorion, I sentence you to death. Chaos shall be sown in the land, as in the hearts and minds. So it was written. And so you will die. So she's actually a pretty high-level cleric. I think she's level 15 or something. And she has some resistances. She has some pre-buffs. But it doesn't really matter. She falls easily.
It is done.
And she actually has a unique plate mail, plate of the dark. And now I am going to quickly... Oh yeah, one more thing. The enhanced edition adds a unique piece of armor here, but it's going to be guarded likely by some skeletons. Alright, they didn't spawn here. So I'm going to pick this up. It has a unique dark look, this one. And anyway, I'm going to buff up Imoen's intelligence, and hopefully we can identify these. And then we will proceed to some kind of a couple of things that I would like to talk about, and a couple of things that I would like us to take a look at. More on that in a second. Yeah, so this is the Magma Bulwark. It's just a plate mail +2, and the important thing about it, we won't really be able to see it all that much with our characters. It could be really well visible on like a male fighter, but it's basically like a black type of armor. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, we can't really see it all that well on our characters. But yeah, and this is, yeah, full plate mail. This is Plate of the Dark. This is a full plate +2. Nothing all that special against it about it. This also has a pretty dark look. No, not. Yeah, but a little bit different. So it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, now that we are about to end our adventure, once we enter the Temple of Bhaal, that is where the final encounter awaits us. And I am going to, like I said, reserve a separate episode for it, because it is going to be probably quite long, quite involved, and then there's going to be the ending, and I would like to share some closing thoughts, I guess, in that same episode. So here, let us take a moment and examine our stats. So we were able to reach the experience cap on all of our, well, the 2 characters that we're going to export. Even Yeslik managed to reach the experience cap, although he was quite far behind everyone else. So yeah, we've managed to do that. Now let's take a look at the information about the kills and everything. So this is basically the most important thing to look at, the percentage of total kills in party, and of course it's going to be a little skewed towards our Kansai ladies who were in the party the whole time. Of course, they never left. So 34% for Senashira, 600 kills, the best of which was the Greater Wolfware Karug. And basically the most powerful vanquished enemy, how it's determined is by how much experience it gives you. So you will see in Baldur's Gate 2 especially, there are some very, very powerful enemies that die in more of like a cutscene kind of way and don't grant you experience directly. And that's why some of the very powerful enemies are kind of outclassed in this category here by some enemies that give you experience directly as you kill them, and they will show you as your most powerful vanquished. But Karug, I think, is a pretty good one, pretty fitting. So let's take a look at Jaheira's stats. Only 9% total kills, because of course for the most part she wasn't really that effective in fighting, and she didn't have like that effective spells, but still 170 kills. Not too bad. And she was never expected to be, you know, that great in fighting. And Yeslik, of course, only has 4% because he... Oh yeah, and 1 second. Who was your most powerful vanquished? Andris, that mage on that mysterious mage island where Chandalar sent us. So Yeslik's most powerful vanquished was the Greater Wyvern from Durlag's Towers Dungeons. Only 4% because he, well, 4% total, or in this chapter 8%. But you know, the chapter stats can be not that great either, because you know, some chapters are longer, some chapters are you know, pretty short, and it depends how everything goes. The luck of the draw, basically, on who gets the killing blows. Anyway, 73 kills for him, and that's all because he, you know, joined the party very, very late. He was the latest addition to our party. So Kira and I, let's check her out. 31%. Arg, the stone golem, apparently was her most powerful vanquished. 539 kills in total. She was dead a couple of times, so she wasn't active all the time. But yeah, a very powerful, like, ranged Kensai character. Pretty cool. Then Koran also joined us pretty late, only at the beginning of Cloakwood Forest. His most powerful vanquished was Daviorn, aka Dave. 197 kills for him, 11% total, or 60% in this chapter. Yeah, he is still one of our most powerful combatants. It's just that, you know, he joined so late. And Imoen, 8%. Not too bad, actually. Battle Horror. She managed actually to kill a Battle Horror with some magic missiles, I think, when we encountered the Battle Horrors in Degradel's home, I think. 155 kills. Of course, she was in our party for the most of it. She was not in our party for a little bit, but generally she was active, and yeah, managed to get some kills, probably mostly with those like fireballs. So yeah, that's our party. And now let's talk about exporting our characters, because we will going to get a an automatic export once we, I think actually in Enhanced Edition it happens once we enter the temple, I think, or at the very least once we defeat Sarevok in the final battle. It's going to automatically create like an export files for our characters. But I am going to do them manually, because there are basically certain items that you can export with you to Baldur's Gate 2, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Because there's basically, normally there's 3 items, and in the Enhanced Editions there are 4 items that you can transport over to Baldur's Gate 2, that you can export with you. So the first one, they're basically like separated into like 4 lists, but sometimes those lists are not exactly that. The first one being the pantaloons. It's just a question of whether you have them in your inventory when you export your character or not. So we of course have the golden pantaloons. They are going to be exported into Baldur's Gate 2. We are going to be able to find them very early in Baldur's Gate 2, and you know, we are going to have to keep them there. Of course, also one thing to mention is that I've been carrying these golden pantaloons for the whole game, basically, not to forget about them. But if you want it to be really optimal, especially if you're like soloing and you only have the inventory space of one character, you know, it's better to probably, you know, just pick up those pantaloons very, very late in the game, like in chapter 7, when you're like, you know, going back from Candlekeep, and only then on your way back to Baldur's Gate City pick them up from Friendly Armin. Or even if you pick them up faster or earlier than that, you can just put them in some kind of container, because in containers items are not going to despawn, whereas if you leave them on the ground, they are going to despawn after a while. But in containers they won't, so just put them into some container and just, you know, retrieve them into your inventory before you want to do the export. So yeah, that's the first item, whether it's just a yes or no type of thing. Then the second item is one of a few armors that you can export into Baldur's Gate 2. And there's basically the leather armor, the Protector of the Second that we got from the Amazons and sold, of course. We don't have any of them. And basically what happens if you don't have any of those armors and any of these items from the next 2 lists that I'm going to mention, there's always a default choice that's just going to happen in Baldur's Gate 2. And I am satisfied with the default choice, but just to give you a full example, the other one is the Chainmail +2, Mail of the Dead, and that's the default option. And it's actually a pretty useful armor. That's for Viconia, for example, in Baldur's Gate 2, if you want to have her. That's probably the best armor that she can wear for a while. Then there's the Fallorain Plate. There were actually 2 copies of Fallorain Plate because of one being worn by Simeon. It's just a plate mail +1. It's nothing too useful. And then the last one, there's also one unobtainable armor, like on the place on the list, but you can't get it through legitimate means in Baldur's Gate 1. And the last one is a chainmail +3. That would technically, I guess, be the best, I guess the most useful, probably, armor. But anyway, both chainmail +3 and that Mail of the Dead and Fallorain plate sell for the same amount in Baldur's Gate 2. So, and we're not going to use any of them, so it doesn't really matter which one happens to be in Baldur's Gate 2. So it's going to be Mail of the Dead that we're going to just quickly switch to something better on our like main heavy armored characters. So that's the second list, I guess, the second item. And then the third item is kind of from like an accessory or miscellaneous list. And on there, by the way, also the items are placed on the list with a priority setting. So basically, if you have a couple of these items in your inventory, the one highest on the list is going to be exported. If you have none, the default one is going to be exported. And that's how it goes. So anyway, with the miscellaneous list, there are 4 items on that list. One being the Helm of Balduran, and that's the highest priority on that list. The second being Claw of Khaz'goroth. The third one being the Horn of Khaz'goroth that I actually didn't even use in this playthrough. And the fourth one being Kovaras's Ring of Protection, if you accepted his ring that he wants to give you in Candlekeep. So the Helm of Balduran I am going to place in Senashira's inventory so that this gets exported. This has higher priority than the Claw of Khaz'goroth. So that's what's going to happen. Another tactic would be to like use Remove Curse to de-equip this Claw and just put it on the ground or something, so that she doesn't have any items from that list, and the default item to be to show up in Baldur's Gate 2 is Helm of Balduran. And I'm going to go with Helm of Balduran instead of the Claw, which I think is a legitimate kind of possibility in some situations, pretty rare ones. I guess maybe if you're soloing with a character that can't use Helm of Balduran, you might want to have these nice saving throw boosts. Like the Horn is just too weak. Like the immunity, it just lasts for only 3 rounds, that's its main drawback, but also the immunity to 1st and 2nd level spells doesn't matter at all. And the saving throws boosts are nice, but it's nothing too significant. Then the Claw of Khaz'goroth, there's plenty of great rings in Baldur's Gate 2, so it doesn't really matter all that much. And the Helm of Balduran is still, even in Baldur's Gate 2, an excellent helmet, like kind of like an excellent go-to all-around helmet when you don't really need to wear anything that would grant you any sort of immunity or any resistances and stuff like that. The Helm of Balduran is basically like your go-to default option for a nice all-around helmet for people that can wear helmets. So this is going to be the most useful for our party, and we're going to use it pretty much throughout the whole game on someone. And then in the Enhanced Edition, actually, starting from the version 1.3, which we're playing on, there's actually a 4th item that you can kind of export into Baldur's Gate 2, and that is a weapon. So they basically provide you with a variety of weapons that can get exported that way, and basically whichever you have in your inventory, or if you don't have any, or you create a new character in Baldur's Gate 2, it's going to be based on your proficiency points. So of course for us, Ashidina is on that list, and for us it's going to be that. But that list is kind of weird. Some of the choices are really weird. Like some weapons are not represented on that list at all. Like for example, there is no scimitar or there's no short sword. And some of the choices are kind of weird. Like for example, from the flail / Morningstar proficiency, they chose Keel's Morningstar to be the one that's imported. And that's of course that Morningstar +3 that's cursed, the wearer can get berserked in combat, so it's something that you wouldn't want to use in most situations anyway. Instead of going for something like the Thresher, like a unique flail that they introduced. So that's kind of weird. Anyway, for us it's going to be Ashidina, and I just wanted to take a moment to talk about how much value we're going to get out of this item in this Saga playthrough. How much mileage we're going to get, because already we've been using it throughout the vast majority of Baldur's Gate 1, almost the whole game, because we killed Bacillus pretty early in the game, and that's when we got Ashidina, and we've been using it ever since because it's the best Warhammer in Baldur's Gate 1. And then in Baldur's Gate 2, in the Shadows of Amn portion, we're also going to end up using it for the most of the game, basically, before we upgrade to Crom Fair. There is a Warhammer +3, but it's just a plain Warhammer +3, and in most cases, having that one electrical damage is still better. But even that Warhammer +3, it depends on your route, but in my route it's going to be pretty late that we're going to get it. And then we're going to, at the end of Shadows of Amn, we're going to upgrade to Crom Fair. But, you know, for most of Shadows of Amn, we are still going to be using Ashidina. So this is just such an amazing weapon, I guess. We're going to get so much value, like so much mileage out of it. We're going to be using, you know, we already have been using it for the vast majority of Baldur's Gate 1. And then for a lot of Baldur's Gate 2, we're also going to end up using it. So yeah, that's basically it when it comes to exporting. So I'm going to export my character right now into like Senna End. Maybe you need to you can use 8 characters here, so I guess this should be good enough. And we're going to export Kiranai into Kira End, I guess. And we're not going to use the automatically created export files that the game is going to create for us. And now Yeslik can get his helm back, and we're basically set. So we're going to have the golden pantaloons, we're going to have Ashidina, we're going to have the Helm of Balduran, and we're going to have that Mail of the Dead happening or showing up in Baldur's Gate 2 by default. Alright, so those are kind of like the end of the game kind of things that I wanted to go over in this episode. And of course in the next one, the final battle against Sarevok and his fanatical, the most fanatical, the closest followers, I guess, of his, is going to commence. So, as always, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next episode for the finale, I guess. So see you then.